Knock, knock on the farmhouse door. A nice lady with a Bible and a congratulations, you have been selected. You may now collect your gift from the church. It says it right here on the orders from the man downstairs.
Good evening and welcome back to the podcast Compels You, the show in which a mysterious AI mastermind dictates a cursed category of movies, and we review those movies with you. A cursed category consists of 2 requirements for a movie, and the cursed part is that we must then race against the clock to find 2 movies that meet both requirements. If we fail to comply, we're punished by AI. I'm Stacy. I'm here tonight with my co-host Bill.
Yep, that's right. That's me. And yeah, I had a mysterious fun thing happen a couple weeks, was it a week ago? 2 weeks ago. I ended up getting a whole bunch of like weird welts all over my body and they kept multiplying. It turns out mites eat the eggs of cicadas and like the casings of cicadas, and our like whole neighborhood's overrun with like mites right now. And they're mite bites. How weird is
Oh my
that?
God.
I
Okay,
know.
that's going on my list of places I'm not going to live.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's just like Illinois, but wherever cicadas are, but
Do you know that
holy hell.
mites are arachnids?
No, but it makes sense because I have seen a zoomed in picture of them, and
They
that
look
makes
just like
sense.
little spiders.
They look like the little things from the Bay.
They sure do, kinda.
So that's been my fun thing. How are you, Stacy?
I had a pretty shitty day, to be honest. Let's see, I lost internet for a few hours. My dog is limping around. Got something
Oh,
wrong with one of his feet or legs or some joint in that machinery. And I guess that's all I'm willing to say, in the public record. So
fair
yeah,
enough.
shitty day. I had a headache. It's gone now. Took some ibuprofen. So I've seen some movies lately.
Tell me.
I've seen 3 movies in the theater.
Wow.
I don't get too excited yet. So the first one I saw was the M. Night Shyamalan psychological thriller Trap. It was neither psychological nor thrilling. That's all I have to say about
Did
that.
it feel like a trap?
I felt like I could leave if I wanted to, but I
Oh,
was
okay.
like, nah, I'll hang around and see just how ridiculous this gets. It gets pretty ridiculous.
Where do you land on Shyamalan overall? You've talked about him a couple times generally, but where do you land on him? Like thumbs up, thumbs down?
More misses than hits.
Yeah.
I thought Sixth Sense was an okay movie.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was as exciting as everyone else, but
Mm-hmm.
he also kind of messed up a book that he adapted from a writer that I like. So,
Was
uh,
that happening?
it's The Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, Knock at the Cabin. Okay.
Yeah,
I have not seen
which
that yet, and I've just not been excited to see it.
it takes on a completely different meaning than the book intended. So there's
Interesting.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how I feel. It's
Okay.
if he comes out with a movie that looks good, I'll see it
I just
with
appreciate
low
that
expectations.
anytime a new Shyamalan movie comes out, people try to like figure it out. Not like the plot, but like what the hell was he thinking? Because like he's had some like weird like The Happening, which is just like the most mind-boggling movie you could watch, but it's kind of entertaining for that reason.
Uh-huh.
But then he'll have like really serious movies and some that are just like you kind of think they're jokes because they're so on the nose with a lot of things. But then he'll come out with a really good movie. So it's like all over the map. I don't know. He'd be a terrible one to do a marathon because it's just too up and down.
Oh yeah, that would be. You remember when I saw The Watchers, and that
Yes,
was
that's the one I was
written,
thinking of.
directed by one of his daughters? Well, turns out he has another daughter, and this
Hmm.
movie was really a vehicle for her singing. She's a singer,
Oh, okay.
pop R&B kind of singer.
Gotcha.
She's a good singer. It was a very silly movie, though. I hope she does very well in her career. Oh, so I saw Cuckoo, which I've been excited about all
Yes.
year long. Dan Stevens,
Oh, sold.
preternaturally blue eyes do not disappoint. It was fun. It was very weird. The creature is creepy. I really liked forgot her name, actress performance who played Gretchen, the protagonist. And I know that you will appreciate this gem of news that I bring to you. Dan Stevens speaks really good German. So, of course,
Really?
I looked this up and he is actually fluent in German. So, Bill, I want to know, does this intensify your celebrity crush since you have this thing in common now?
I think so.
You should see
Wow.
this movie.
So he's English, right?
I no longer remember, but yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
Okay.
English. He feels like a different person in everything that he appears in.
Yes, he does a really good like Midwest American accent in the movie The
Mhm.
Guest. He's in it. I would never have guessed that he's English. Like he does really well with voice work.
I also saw Alien Romulus. I liked this one a lot. It harkened back to like the gritty dystopia of the original Alien movie, which has been my favorite
Nice.
throughout the franchise. Much better than the last three movies, in my opinion. So if you liked the original and all the futuristic spaceship tech that 1979 had to offer, I think you will like this one. And it's full of references to every single movie in the franchise. So if you like that kind of
Fun.
thing,
Hmm.
you'll appreciate it. I kind of have like the collector spirit when I see those movies. And it's decently scary. Like it stands on its own as a good horror movie. Highly recommend and see in
Nice.
the theaters if you can.
So you pick Alien over Aliens?
Yeah. I do like the second one.
Yeah,
It's up at the top for me, like near the
sure.
top.
Sometimes it feels sacrilege to put like a sequel over the original, you know?
Doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't. That would be a fun curse category, I think. Sequels that are better than the original.
Who will be stuck with Star Wars and arguably Aliens?
Okay, well, those are good movies. I'm not sure Star Wars is a
I'll
horror
watch any of those
franchise,
again.
but yeah, why not? What's the downside here? Come on.
Maybe for a very special edition.
Ooh,
Uh,
special. I like it.
so upcoming, we still have some more days in August. So I think the very end of this month, Afraid comes out. That's the family with the evil AI that goes rogue
Oh,
movie.
yeah, you were telling me about that.
Gotta see anything with an evil AI in it.
Yes.
If I am able to catch it at the theater, I don't know where it's playing. I will. If not, I'll just wait for streaming. Oh, Oddity has arrived on streaming. That was
Oh,
not
cool.
showing at any theater near me, so I'll be pleased to see that. I think I'm gonna stream it tomorrow. It's my Friday plan.
Nice.
There, now they know what day of the week we record on.
Dang it. We'll edit it out.
At the time of this recording, there are 70 days until Halloween. So that pretty much means it's already October in my mind.
Yeah.
But in reality, it means it'll be September in a week. And this year, September promises to be a plentiful month for theatrical horror releases. At the very top of my list, of course, we've got Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Yes.
So excited.
I brought this news especially for you, Bill. There's also an A24 movie coming out. Have you seen a trailer for this? It's called The Front Room and stars American singer-songwriter actor Brandy, best known to 90s kids as Moesha.
Wow, that's a name I have not thought of in a while.
If you ever wanted to see Moesha in a horror movie, you're gonna
She's
get a
one of those
chance.
I always had a hard time keeping her real name and her character's name straight. I'd be like, yeah, it's Moesha. They're like, no, her name's Brandy. Dang it,
Brandy.
Brandy. It's hard to keep
I
straight.
used to like her.
Oh yeah,
I
she was great. She was huge in the what, mid 90s, late 90s.
90s. Yeah.
Nice.
But you're kind of an A24 guy, is that accurate to say?
I would say so. It at least raises my eyebrow when I see that in the trailer. I'm just kind of like I give it a little more attention generally. And I haven't really been let down that I can think of. Like no real stinkers in the A24 filmography that I've seen. So I've just cursed it. The next one's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a whole A24 subreddit, and they're constantly like, rate all your A24 movies
Oh
from like
God.
one to, X, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're interested in taking part in that kind of experiment, no, you should probably not.
It kind of
Uh,
reminds me of like the Criterion collection. Are you familiar?
mm-mm.
So it's like a very prestigious kind of pretentious collection of movies. So if you get like a Criterion collection release, it means that your movie's like a new classic basically. And it's a very
Oh,
hoity-toity. I would say film snob thing, but honestly, all the movies in this Criterion collection are fantastic. Think like Wes Anderson. A lot of his movies are in that kind of.
I'm just going to avoid them now,
Yeah.
just because that's too fancy for me.
Not a lot of horror movies that I can think that are in it though,
See?
sadly. So
Prejudice.
that's
That's
why you
why.
need
Genre
A24.
prejudice. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I'm very into any writer, director, producer who is interested in doing what people make fun of as elevated horror. But,
Sure.
anything that's like an interesting genre blend or, you know, God forbid, literary, I'm interested in seeing that happen.
Yeah.
Not every single movie, Jesus, but,
Hmm.
some of the time, once a year, twice a year.
I agree.
I'm sure this is not surprising to you or anyone, but I'm skipping the American Speak No Evil.
Right.
The trailer was more than enough. The trailer told the whole story.
Oh, is that kind of reaction?
It did. Plus, I've seen the original,
Yeah.
and why? Why?
When
The
did that come
trailer
out
annoys me.
roughly?
Oh, it's coming out in
No,
September, I
with
think.
the original. When was the?
Oh, 2 years ago.
Oh, that's right. That's the one that they're. Oh my God.
There's something about 2 years. Like, do they start making it as soon as the original comes out?
I don't know. They're both American movies.
No, the other one is Austrian,
Oh,
Dutch,
okay. Gotcha.
Austrian.
Okay.
Yeah, something.
So basically, people didn't want to read subtitles, and they're like, "We need to remake
Can that
this."
really be it?
I
I hope
mean,
that's not it.
yeah, I think it might be.
There's a creepy monster movie coming out called Bagman, one word, because
Oh,
there was another movie called Bagman with two words. It's not that one. And it
interesting.
looks pretty goofy. I think it's Lionsgate or something. They don't make very good horror movies, whoever they are.
Yeah,
They even show the monster's face in the trailer, which, first of all, that's an interesting choice.
yeah.
I think it also means they don't have much else to put in the trailer, so that's worrisome. I mean, is there ever a good reason to show the monster in the trailer? I couldn't think of one.
I
And
mean,
it's
if your
goofy
movie's not
looking.
very good,
It reminds me a little bit of Leprechaun. Have you ever seen Leprechaun?
oh, of course I have.
Which I like the movie, in its own way, but that's not a favorable comparison. But maybe it'll be a good like PG-13
Yeah,
horror flick for the kiddos.
for the kiddos.
Yes, the last one on my September radar is called Never Let Go, not
Hmm,
to be confused with Never Let Me Go. Different movie. This one stars Halle Berry, who I like. I recently saw the trailer in the theater, and the premise is Halle Berry has two little boys, and they aren't allowed to go outside without being tied with ropes to their house for supernatural reasons, we think.
interesting.
So it's kind of like, is it really a supernatural reason, like a curse, or is the mom just actually delusional kind of thing?
Right. That one looks like kind of like the evils outside theme, which I've been noticing a lot.
Yes.
Like we don't know what it is, but there's something evil, and it hinges on sci-fi and like yeah, psychological. Just yeah, you get a bunch of people in a small environment, and they're all afraid of what's outside, and then you get internal, you know,
Yeah.
wobble stuff like that. I feel
Like the
like it's its own
Watchers.
subgenre. The Watchers.
Like the Watchers. That's like the Watchers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My first thought, like seeing this trailer, was those have to be massive coils of rope because they're like solid rope and they go far
Yeah,
out into the woods.
for
So
sure.
rope is really heavy and
Hmm.
it seems like a lot of work to be constantly like spooling it, when they come back inside.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
are they going to cover that in the movie? Because if that's going to be a plot hole, I don't know if I can live with that unless somebody gives me like an okay, like physics compatible
So you'd prefer in the
explanation.
middle of the movie they should have like a 15-minute segment where they talk
Yes.
about like spooling it up at the end of every day and
It could be an intermission for everyone else. It could be like, Stacy and anyone else who's interested,
right
please stay behind for
in
the
the physics of this
discussion.
movie.
Everyone else enjoy complimentary champagne in the lobby.
That's the kind of theater I want to go to.
Me too. I mean, that's what going to the symphony is like. So
Yes.
we elevate it. We need to
Should
elevate
we
it.
all wear tuxes and like nice clothes when we go to the movie theater like they used to? It used to be a big thing. People would put their Sunday's best on and go sit in the theater. I kind of miss that. I wasn't even
I
part of
won't
it,
be
but I
doing
miss it.
that.
Now,
But I don't mind if everyone else does. I just don't want to be required to.
so everyone else will be sitting there in suits and stuff, and you'll be sitting there with your dragon, just chilling.
I I work in tech. I'll be fine.
Perfect.
Is there a September or fall release for that matter that I didn't mention that you're most looking
What
forward
about
to?
Heretic? When's that coming out?
That's November.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, that's coming
later.
up. I am definitely looking forward to that one now.
Yeah.
That may be like my next major like tentpole movie for this year. Now that I've gotten through Alien Romulus.
On to the next one.
That's all I can think of, except Christmas Day Nosferatu, but that's not the fall anymore.
No. This week's episode and next, our categories are killer with a supernatural element. With such a broad category, we've picked some real gems. Tonight, we're reviewing the highly anticipated 2024 crime horror thriller Longlegs, starring Maika Monroe, Nicholas Cage, Blair Underwood, and Alicia Witt. Written and directed by Osgood Perkins, an alum of the podcast Compels You, this is the fourth film he has directed, including 2015's The Black Coat's Daughter, which we covered in our second episode, so please listen. Which may or may not be connected, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that later, whether The Black Coat's Daughter and Longlegs might be connected. We'll find out. Despite a budget of under $10 million, Longlegs has raked in around $92 million at the box office, which isn't surprising at all given all of the hype of this movie. It is set in Oregon in the early 90s, and the film follows young FBI agent Lee Harker, played by Maika Monroe, as she investigates a killer known as Longlegs, who somehow manipulates families into killing themselves. Haunted by strange memories from her childhood, she pieces together clues from various crime scenes, only to discover that the evil might be closer than she ever imagined. So, Stacy, I am guessing you have not seen this because it just came out. I know you were way overhyping this movie.
I may have participated in the hype. I was majorly looking forward to seeing this movie this year. It came out pretty recently. I think I may have seen it opening weekend. And then it seemed to enjoy like what is now considered an extended stay in the theaters, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you've also seen it because we talked about it.
Yes.
I think when you saw it. Did you have three things?
I didn't, and I'm so bummed because I didn't know we were going to be doing this movie necessarily. So
that would have been fun.
Yeah, that would have. I don't even know what I would have thought of. It's such a...
Me neither. It was such a mystery bag.
Yes, I agree. With that being said, do you have any content warnings outside of our standard?
And oh my God, I hope I got them all. So the main content warnings here, just as an overview, are violence and gore, some of which involves children, and frightening and intense scenes, some of which involve children. In most horror movies, I think you can expect a disturbing storyline. I mean, that's what we hope for, right? But some viewers might find this one goes out of its way to be particularly disturbing. That may not be your thing, and children are not spared in this movie. In particular, I took note of some body horror, some stalking behavior, self-harm, domestic violence, a brief brush with farm animal death, but not much is shown. Quick and unexpected shots of snakes, characters restrained, suicide, and gun violence. As always, we encourage you to check the site doesthedogdie.com if you have particular triggers. That site surveys users on a long list of triggers about movies, but it does include spoilers, so beware. And I just realized one that I forgot, so I'll add it in. There's a decayed corpse in one scene.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you about it when we get there. Tell you all about it.
All right. Are we ready for the dark fact of the day?
I mean, are we ever ready?
No, as ready as we're ever going to be, I guess.
Dark fact.
So today's dark fact comes from the remote island of Shikoku in Japan, specifically a small rural village of Nagoro. With a population of fewer than 30 mostly elderly residents and no babies born in over 20 years, the village has become nearly deserted. So to bring back some life into this town, one of their residents, Tsunami Ariono, began creating life-size dolls and placing them around the village to give the illusion of a bustling community. These dolls now outnumber the residents 10 to 1 and can be found in schools, bus stops, fields, and basically any other location a human would normally be. As more tourists visit, Tsunami continues to add more dolls, and visitors have described the experience as, quote, scary, weird, and peaceful, which all of those kind of make sense to me while I was reading about it. I'm like, I could see how it would be kind of like peaceful, but like at nighttime, that would be scary as hell. Just a whole bunch of life-size dolls surrounding you.
It's also kind of sad, like to think about because I mean, I know that probably the birth rate falling off is a good thing for the planet, but like in a place like Japan where it's like one culture, basically,
Yeah,
they're watching their culture disappear as like they're not reproducing and like old people are being left alone because they don't have enough young
right.
people to take care of them. It's just a very sad thing, and that they should make a movie about the doll town because
Yeah.
that is both sad and creepy.
Ooh, a
Nice
sad,
work.
creepy horror
Nice
movie.
work getting dark this week.
I
Well
didn't even think
done.
this one was particularly dark, but I think it got
Those are
there.
the ones that get me, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The ones you don't think.
No, not at all. So that was our dark fact of the day. So we are going to go ahead and take a brief intermission and we will be back with our spoilerific discussion of Longlegs. So stick around.
This movie opens with a quote from the T-Rex song, Bang a Gong. Even if you've seen it, you might want to look it up because you probably don't remember that quote at the beginning, do you? I didn't think so. The events of the movie kick off in snow-blanketed rural Oregon, early 1970s, which is totally a place that I can say, and also prime serial killer territory.
True.
We see a car drive up, a young girl sitting at a desk, and that scene was in the trailer. And she looks out the window at the car, and she goes outside in a very 70s looking winter coat that I really
Yes.
liked, and tries to see who it was. I think she just sees like a dark silhouette in the car,
Mm-hmm.
or is that just the passenger? I don't know. Then there's like a weird sound like someone calling. It's kind of a like animal almost sound. Such a weird scene, kind of a funny scene in a
Yes.
way. The house looks really stark and remote, and it's winter. As I mentioned, maybe they do this funny thing where the girl is looking like every which way, and every direction she looks, it shows a different part of like the bare trees. And there's like that tense pizzicato kind of punch sound in the
Mm-hmm.
score for each shot. It's like the uh-oh musical cue for
Yeah.
when a character sees something suddenly. That happens twice and she doesn't see anything. And I like laughing and no one else is laughing in the theater. Um, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And then bam, jump scare. We see the bottom of Longlegs' face, which looks exactly like Joan Cusack for some reason. And I found a lot of
Oh,
people who agree with me.
interesting. Huh. I'll have to relook at that.
I'm sure that was not on purpose. Then Nicholas Cage does some goofy Nicholas Cage stuff. Says,
There she is, the almost birthday girl. Oh, but it seems I wore my long legs today.
so we said the title. The title's been said already. That's,
Boom.
that's a choice. And he crouches down suddenly, so we see his full face for only a split second, and then we get the title card, which looks very 1970s, which is funny. The movie is not set in the 1970s, but I think this year we're just doing a 1970s retro thing, what with the first Omen and all.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
But I did think the title card looked really retro. And then we get some titles for different parts of the movie. And this one, part one, is called His Letters. Please fact check me on that. Because
Yeah, I think you're right.
now that I've written it down, it seems wrong. But anyway, no, it's right because of yeah, okay.
Right.
So then we go directly to the 1990s. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. Because what's better than retro horror nostalgia than doubling down on it in 2 separate decades? I appreciate, though, that we skipped the entire regrettable Reagan era.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Enter FBI agent Lee Harker, Maika Monroe's character, who's been handed a cold case, as cold as rural Oregon in the dead of winter. Harker has teamed up with her partner, Agent Fisk. Don't get too attached. They hit the streets with the intention of canvassing for a suspect, but this is no slow burn investigation, y'all. This is not the main investigation of the plot of the movie. So we're going to go kind of fast. Harker's got like some spidey sense, it seems. It's almost like she read the script in advance. One glance and she's like, hey, that's the perp's house over there.
This, I gotta say, this whole like first, I don't even know how many minutes in. This is probably like 15 minutes. I don't even know. But like, it is just bouncing from one thing to the next with no background on anything. It was driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was probably their intention to do this way.
Disorient you.
This whole movie was like
later.
this, where it's just like, it just has you asking a bunch of questions, but then it just goes to the next thing. And it's like, what the hell is this? Why?
Yeah, it does.
Why is she doing it like that? I don't understand.
Feel free to interject those things, because I think like naturally when I was making my notes, I try to make things make more sense than they did. So call it out. If
there's a lot of trying to fill in the gaps as a viewer of this movie, and to not good results sometimes in my mind.
That's part of the fun. And I haven't looked too much into this because I wanted to have my own like fresh take on this.
Sure.
But there are a lot of people out there with their completely fleshed out theories of what this movie means, of what happens to everybody. We're not going to get into that here. It's just a very, very interesting rabbit hole to go down, perhaps.
Yes.
And even like the critics are so widely varied on their grasp of what happened in this movie. Anyway.
Yep.
So she thinks they found a house. Nobody really questions that too much. So they go knock on the door, but instead of getting, a regular friendly answer, Agent Fisk gets a bullet to the head. And this is kind of where the viewer's disbelief really must get suspended.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to do that, because Harker whips out her gun and she goes full Clarice Starling right into the house alone, which is definitely against protocol.
Sure.
Like, she would probably get fired for that in real life.
Hey, it's the 90s.
Anyway, she gets the guy, and that's not that important, but it turns out to be a good career move. So she rides that high right on into a weird psychic ability test. That is totally a real thing that the real FBI administers. Sure thing, I believe that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we don't have to watch too long of that. Although it is kind of like nicely creepy. Next, Harker has a sit down with her boss, Agent Carter, who has classic FBI boss energy, I must say.
He sure does.
And he doesn't mince words. He cuts right to the chase. He's impressed, maybe a little too impressed, with how Harker nailed that suspect's house on a hunch.
Right.
He doesn't say it out loud, but you can tell he knows she's got those psychic abilities. I guess she did good on her test, huh?
Whatever that means.
Whatever that was.
There's just like a bunch of like colors and shapes, and it looked like an eye exam or something.
It looked more 70s than 90s to me.
Oh, for sure. Very throwbacky.
I could believe that back in the 70s.
Yes. Not in the 90s.
So when you're an FBI boss in this situation, you have some options. I think like you could, for example, have your report transferred to some paranormal investigation squad and be done with her.
Yeah.
There you go. Not your problem anymore.
No.
Because wouldn't you want to know, like, how come you couldn't use your psychic abilities to keep your partner from getting shot?
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Carter makes a different choice, though, and he hands her another cold case. A case so cold, it could refreeze the melting polar ice caps. We're talking multiple decades, multiple families. So what's happening is the fathers in each family are going like full Amityville horror, slaughtering their wives and children before turning the gun or whatever on themselves. What's weird is no one has any idea what or who is forcing these fathers to do this. There's no evidence of break-ins. or struggles. There's no evidence of anyone else being in the house. There's just this one clue. The one clue is at every crime scene, there's a letter that gets left. It's decorated with these satanic looking symbols, and it's signed, you guessed it, Longlegs. So this is an interesting mystery in that we know who did it. That's
Right.
not the interesting part. But how did he do it? Like how and
Yes.
why? It's like a how done it and why done it. That's what we want to know. Did you start trying to solve this crime at this point, Bill, or were you just along for the ride?
I was still along for the ride. I was just trying to get like my bearings straight on like grounding myself in this movie because it's just like I said, it just fires off so fast, and it's just like, all right, I'm trying to get a grasp of this character and like what's happening. But no, I had
I
not started putting it together yet.
I think at this point I was working way too hard when I should have just gone
Yeah.
on the trip, you know?
Yeah.
But you can't watch it again for the first time, can you?
Oh, you can't. No,
That's the beauty of this art form.
it's true.
There's beauty in the sadness. Anyway,
Oh,
Agent Carter must be like vibing okay with Harker because he invites her over to his house,
yeah.
which in my life would be a really weird work-life boundary to cross. But for some reason, police in movies are constantly doing this. Have you noticed
Yes.
this?
Oh, of
So they
course. You always get like
come
the
over, meet the
uneasy
wife.
partner. Yeah, the uneasy partner who's like, I'm okay,
Yes.
I'm okay. And then like, no,
Like
come
like the
meet my
single
family.
man, he's new in town.
Yes. Yep.
It's yeah.
Definitely very
So
tropey.
yeah, it's flipped this time in that it's a woman who's a guest. So
True. He like insists that she come in too. Like he like
he
doesn't take
really
no for an
does.
answer. So I mean,
It's almost like a little harassy, but
yeah, a little
it was the
bit
90s.
from a position in power,
Yeah,
no big
we didn't
deal.
care about that in the 90s, I don't
Nah,
think.
of course not.
Anyway, at the Carter residence, Harker meets Carter's wife, whose name is Anna, and I'm probably going to forget that from now on, and their daughter Ruby. I won't forget that. And right away, this family makes me hella anxious because they're like too perfect. I'm like, I am
Uh-huh.
absolutely not getting invested in any of y'all.
No.
Ruby is curious about Harker, invites her to see her room, which is a hilariously awkward scene.
Yes.
So, like, I think it's fair to say, so far in the movie, we know that Harker doesn't really know how to talk to people well, like
Yes.
just people. But now we see she really doesn't know how to talk to children at all.
No.
And it's
Very
so
uneasy.
awkward. It's such an interesting choice to do the scene this way. And it really kind of gave like more dimension to her character.
Yeah, I agree.
I liked it a lot. And I thought the actor that played Ruby was really good as well.
Hmm.
So Ruby wants to know if Harker always wanted to be an FBI agent her whole life. And Harker admits that she used to dream of being an actor. And that is not what I would have expected for that character. But then
No.
I thought about it and I was like, plenty of crime solving geniuses have like artistic facets to them. Like you got
Hmm.
Sherlock Holmes playing the violin. You got
Right.
others. I don't know who the others are right now, but I'm sure that I'm right.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
there's more.
yeah. So before Harker heads out of the bedroom, Ruby invites her to her upcoming birthday. Uh-oh. Because we've already heard Longlegs say the word birthday in this
Right, right.
movie. So
There's
that's not
something to
good.
this birthday
That's not
idea.
good.
I don't know.
What but nothing could possibly go wrong at a kid's birthday party in a movie,
No.
right? They wouldn't do that, would they?
No. No.
No. Have you seen Smile?
Yes.
There's a birthday that goes wrong. So
Oh,
wrong.
you're
So bad.
right. Yes, I do remember that.
Among other examples. Okay, so back home, Harker retreats to her isolated cabin in the woods, which is
Yes.
just its own horror trope by itself.
It
Good
looks
work.
beautiful though. I love the feel of this type of cabin.
Did you? Did you
I
love the
was
feel
vibing
of
it.
it in this movie with the music and the lighting and the sound?
Absolutely. It's just so, it's
You're
so
so brave.
mysterious. It's like cozy and mysterious and scary all at the same time.
This place practically screams very bad things are going to
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
Uh, but she gets right to work. You kind of get the feeling that like work is her entire life.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not long before we get a sense of her personal problems though as well.
Yes.
She's got maybe an odd relationship with her mother Ruth, played by the lovely Alicia Witt from Twin Peaks. Did you ever see Twin Peaks?
I have, but the thing I recognized her from, and I actually was listening to another podcast and they pointed this out. I didn't know this was Alicia Witt.
Mm.
I remember her from Urban Legends, which was
Oh,
do you remember that? Did you see that?
yeah.
90s, like just,
Hmm.
Scream ripoff, but still an awesome movie. But she's in it, and she's known for being like a very drab main character in that movie. Like that's the one mark everyone has against it. But she was great in this.
Huh.
I did not recognize her at all.
Yeah.
Playing like an
She
older,
rose to the challenge. This was a
yeah,
challenging character.
it was cool to see her.
We'll get to that later, though. She's got maybe an odd relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
Would we say that's accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. She's talking to her on the
Yeah.
phone and just
Not
being very like
necessarily.
not wanting to share things and just kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost like a chore to be on the phone. She just wants to just go back to work, seems like.
But she feels something like she
Yeah.
needs to keep in touch, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, but she's our protagonist, but we need to make her life harder than that.
For sure.
So thank goodness that then there is a loud, ominous pounding on the door.
There are so many crazy camera shots in this whole scene. Like
Yes.
even when she's just talking to her mom, they have it like they have her in like the foreground and there's just this whole background you can see. It's like very like The Strangers or any of those like home invasion or just creepy movies where someone's like stalking someone. You expect to see someone come out of the corner. There's like 5 of those shots during this scene. I loved it.
I'm glad you said that because I remember loving that part of it, but I didn't remember how to describe it well.
It's just like an impending doom over and over again. You can like palpably feel with the camera angles that they use.
Yes. So, of course, she looks out the window and she sees a shadowy figure in the woods. And then she heads outside to confront the person.
She's a
when we're like,
badass.
no, don't go out there.
She
Even though
has
you're
no
an
qualms
FBI
with just
agent,
like, I'm
don't
gonna
I know.
go, I'm getting this
No
shit.
fear, right? No fear. We
none.
never see her afraid of anything.
Never. It's
That
almost
just
like
occurred to me.
it's almost like unhuman. It's almost unhuman.
Well,
honestly.
she's got some stuff going on. But,
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. The whole scene was very nice. It was very tense.
Yes.
So it's like she goes out, he must have slipped in because when she goes back in, he's left behind an envelope. And the envelope says, do not open until January 14th. So these stakes are getting just darker.
Yeah.
And that's the end of part 1. What are your thoughts at this point?
So the way that ends is really strange. So she now knows somebody was in her house and she is not like her reaction to the envelope is like just not afraid at all. Like she's not like turning around, looking around. She's just like, oh, an envelope.
Like I
Okay, I'm
figured
gonna open
she
it now.
maybe she knows the guy. Maybe she, was expecting this.
Yeah.
There's something we don't know yet, but it's not really that. It's just her
it's just
and her
it's just unusual.
flat
She just
reaction.
like she like lives for the puzzle. She doesn't give a crap that like a stranger was just
Yes.
in her house at all. I mean, I'm not saying it's like unrealistic. It's just an interesting choice of reaction for her, I guess.
Could really get into a character like that if it was like a
Yeah.
regular character in a series or something.
Yeah, I agree. But I thought the first act was fantastic. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
For sure. Lots of beautiful things to look at. Very
Yeah.
quirky. The acting is all solid.
Visually, it felt very claustrophobic to me. Even like the shots outside. I don't know why, but it just felt very like I don't know. It's the way that the cinematography is. It's very unique. This whole movie is shot very uniquely. So I think the whole first act, I was trying to like wrap my head around that too, like how the movie looks and like how that was making me feel, and then learning all of these new things one after the other. It's like
like unexpected things. A lot of
Yeah.
them. Like what? What
Yeah.
just happened?
a lot of questions with no answers. So it's just like your head just spins.
It starts going fast. Like right
Yeah.
now, for instance, we're starting part 2, which is called All of Your Things.
Yep.
And Harker ignores the don't open yet instructions. And of course, she opens
Don't
the
do
envelope
it.
because she's got to see what's in there. She's got to solve the puzzle. Inside, a creepy birthday card, not the kind that you want though. Like no money or gift cards. It's decked out in the same satanic coating as the letters from the Longlegs, case, like the letters that he leaves the victims. So super festive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychic super genius Harker quickly breaks the code and spots a passage from Revelation. And literally, as long as it took me to say that sentence, is about how long it took her.
Yes.
in the
Another
movie.
thing that's sped up, and you're just like, what?
Yeah. You're like, what? She
Did I
broke the
miss a
code over?
scene?
No. What?
Yeah.
They have to puzzle over this for a few scenes. Come on.
Seriously. Come on.
But I love that she like did all that herself, and like she
Yeah.
didn't have to, take it to a cryptography lab or something, which is
True.
probably what they would do in real life. I mean, she didn't even call the police when there's an intruder. Like, that's pretty weird. Why didn't she do
Yes.
that? You know?
Incredibly weird.
So, and I don't know the answer. I'm not saying the question because I know the answer.
Hypotheticals.
Oh, yeah. And then she reads the passage from Revelation. I stood upon the sand of the sea. Is that when she gets the Bible out and she looks up the passage, which she clearly
Uh,
has memorized because she says it later, but
right. Yeah, I believe
at
that's
some
the
point she
part.
does that. Yeah. And
Hmm.
it's just this passage about, I think, about the devil, and that, I didn't look it up, so I don't have all of it, but I know some people's theories about what this movie means have a lot to do with the book of Revelation and
Hmm.
connecting characters to like prophecies in the book,
Oh,
basically.
interesting.
And
I'll have to look that
I
up.
think it kind of, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. But, decades of horror movies have taught us that the Bible is fucking scary and violent, especially that Revelation chapter.
Yes.
Sure enough, that passage is followed by a graphic threat of violence that suggests Longlegs isn't just writing fan letters. Darn it. He's sending her a warning. How does he even know who she is? Is he also a psychic super genius? I mean, I guess that makes sense. If he's meant to be her antagonist, he should be up to the challenge. But
Right, right,
I mean, I guess we find out the answer later, but do we really? Like, it's still a feat that he found her and knew where she
right.
lived and blah blah
Sure.
blah. So
Yeah.
that's the stalkery shit that I was talking about.
Hmm.
So she's as we've mentioned, not one to be scared off so easily or at all. She presses on, and Carter pulls her in for another Longlegs murder. And the pattern is the same. Another father murder suicide, another grisly crime scene. As Harker and Carter comb through the wreckage of the man's home, they stumble on a decomposing body of one of
Oh,
the women or girls. So this is the scene, y'all.
yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of Seven, which I think is the first movie that I saw such graphic crime scenes, murder scenes in.
A lot of this movie reminded me of Seven. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. There's a certain like grit and griminess to certain parts of
Hmm.
it that feel very Seven. Not in a bad way,
Yeah.
for sure.
So if this stuff bothers you, this is when you close your eyes right before they pull back the blanket. And we now know for sure that not only is Longlegs threatening Harker, he's totally not done with his own weird business of getting dads to kill their families and off
Right.
themselves for whatever reason.
I like the little thing where her captain or her boss or whatever was like, "Are you okay with this?" And she's like, "Yeah." Like whether, she was okay seeing it. Again, another one of those things where she's just like
Yeah,
no emotion at all. She looks at it, stares at it for a few seconds, and then just starts spouting ideas. You're like, "Whoa, you
very cool.
yeah."
I really like her.
They should do a prequel on her, like her
Yeah.
being brought up into the FBI position that she's in because she's fascinating.
They go back to the station, and like again, Harker really quickly puts all the puzzle pieces together.
Yes.
So the murder dates are not random. That's the important thing to know, but they're sinisterly precise, or actually not. They're sort of precise. So each death took place within 6 days of the daughter's birthday, and the daughters were all turning 9, and they all fell on the 14th of different months. So to be honest, I didn't really like the whole within 6 days thing. I thought
Right.
that was a little loosey goosey.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be more of a fixed duration. If it's going to be numerology, let's be strict about it, but
I
it's
like that.
whatever.
Sure.
So like Longlegs is following some kind of a calendar schedule thing is the point. And it turns out if you look at a linear calendar, each murder forms an eerie triangle. And it always
Ooh.
amuses me in movies when they make a big fucking deal out of things forming mysterious triangle. In
Yeah.
Euclidean geometry, any three non-collinear points in a plane can form a triangle. Big fucking
Sure.
deal. But it's always mystical. It's always like
It means something.
it forms a triangle. Now, if it formed a
Uh,
perfect square, that would be something, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Any three non-collinear points. Anyway,
I do want to point out there is a scene where Harker goes to a payphone. It's a very quick scene. I think she picks up the phone. It looked exactly like the scene in Blackcoat's Daughter, where
I
the
was
the
thinking
main
that
character is at
too.
the bus depot. It almost looks exactly the same. And I think she picks up the phone and there's like silence or there's just like a inaudible noise.
Right.
Very similar to the Blackcoat's daughter. Yes.
Except that when we in Blackout's Daughters, to take a little detour, when it gets to Kat's storyline, we do hear actual words.
Oh, that's true. But the first time you
It's
don't because
other
they
people who hear nothing but noise.
right. I just thought that was
I
super
think.
cool. And I
Yeah,
also do want to mention there was a microfiche scene
love
where Harker
it.
goes to the library. It must be a library or something and goes through the microfiche. I'm like, yes,
Yes.
that you need that in your
Made my heart
90s
beat
set.
faster.
Oh, I
Yes.
love it. We don't get those anymore.
Mm-mm. Can't even
Everyone
ask
just
for
pulls
them
their phone
anymore.
out and does their research on their phone.
I wonder what they did. Is all that microfiche shit like in a basement somewhere? Is it
Oh,
in a
that's a
landfill somewhere?
good question. I don't know. Someone's probably preserving it for
I bet
some
there's a
reason.
dark fact to be found
Ooh.
in the microfiche that no one knows. It's not on the internet. Anyway, so like, yeah, the thing about the triangles is the last triangle is not complete, which means it's not a triangle. It's just a line segment.
Yep.
It's waiting for its third of the non-collinear points, which would be the murder-suicide date of the next event. And the next one, which hasn't happened yet, by drawing on the calendar, she figures out it would be in 3 days on the 13th or something. So, although she's cracked the case wide open, it's weird to me that she keeps like critical details to herself. That is
Yeah.
not protocol. And the fact that she's already received a personal message from the killer, like, wouldn't you want to tell your coworkers at the FBI so they could protect you? And
Yeah.
does she just not believe that anyone is competent besides her? I mean, that's another possibility.
Maybe. Trust issues.
Yeah. I mean, she had a super weird childhood. Can you possibly
True.
imagine?
Yeah.
But she doesn't tell them. And then later on, I wonder if there's another reason for that. But
Right.
she does float a new theory to Carter that Longlegs isn't acting alone. Wonder how she knows that. But there's someone or maybe multiple someone's helping him pull off these brutal murder suicides. So what an interesting idea indeed. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't make you sound like such a psychic super genius as a villain if you actually need help pulling off your own murders.
Right.
So, but we'll come back to that thought. Meanwhile, we finally get a real look at Longlegs when he's out running errands.
Oh, I love this.
He's got really, really awful hair that really needs some like salon quality care. And he's got this weird bloated face. It looks like he's powdered himself in flour or
That's a
chalk.
good way to put it. Yeah.
And now that I'm looking at your background, he's got enormous like sausage fingers.
Nicholas Cage made a lot of decisions with this character. Let's just put it that way.
He must
So
have.
many
Yeah.
decisions.
Did you hear that he based a lot of things about the character on his mother?
Yes, I think I did read that.
Which was a weird thing for him to say considering the
Right.
character, but he was very open about, her struggles with mental health. And so he had
Yes, I do remember
a lot of
that.
that to draw on,
Hmm.
which I think, maybe he was trying to lend a little bit of empathy to the
Yeah.
character as well. Like
Yeah.
the character of Longlegs is not in control of himself.
Right. On the surface, it sounds like a weird choice to make a character like that after your mom, but it's actually kind of maybe sweet. I don't know. Maybe it's
It
like
makes
a,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah. She's no longer alive, so I'm not gonna
Oh,
get mad about it.
true.
So for some reason, he buys some paint. He needs to buy some paint or something. He
Yeah.
saunters into a store for supplies and he tries pulling some of his creepy shit on the teenage clerk. And you would expect her to be scared or call for help, but nope. She's like, oh, it's that weirdo again. Uh,
I think she goes like, Dad, it's that guy
yeah,
again.
which is so funny because that means he goes there regularly and he's still
Right.
trying to pull this shit.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it's also like a nice subversion of an expectation, if not a trope. And
Hmm.
it's funny. Like this movie's
It
got
is funny.
jokes.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's what sets Longlegs off, but I think after this, when he leaves is when he like rants and raves to himself in the car
Oh,
and
you mean
looks
his scream singing?
yeah, pretty agitated. And then he, I guess, drives back to whatever dark hole in the ground he calls home, but more about that later.
Uh-huh.
Cut to Harker and Carter, who are digging deeper into the mystery. And their next stop is the Camera family.
Okay, this I do not understand how they got to this point. Where did this come from? Was this one of the families that
Yeah, it was a
experienced this?
20-year-old cold case related
Okay.
to the case.
Okay.
And they had a farm. The daughter did not die. The daughter's Carrie Ann. She didn't die
Oh,
because she
right.
was at school when it happened.
Okay.
So the dad killed a priest and killed a mom, and then
Right.
the farm was still there. I guess Carrie Ann still owns the farm, even though she's
In the
like a
mental
permanent
institution.
patient in the mental health facility. But
Okay, so they decide to go
the
to this
Camera
farm,
family, yeah, they decide
like
to go to this farm where
very
nobody
random.
at night.
Yeah.
At
And then
night.
they go into like the barn. It's like
Oh my
something's
God.
something's like leading them places. It's
It's very
just
Silence of the Lammy.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
And then I think it's up in the attic of the barn. Do barns have attics or
I would
lofts?
call it a
Maybe up in the
loft.
loft. Yeah,
Yeah,
up in
loft.
the loft under some floorboards. More
Because
psychic
okay.
hand wavy, business. Uh, they find a. Can I just say, the daughter Carrie Ann, the lovely podcast compels you alum Kiernan Shipka, was in the movie Twisters, which Kiernan,
Oh wow.
Kiernan, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Gotta pay the bills.
So they go to the farm, they find a doll, I guess who's supposed to look like little Carrie Ann under the floorboards, and
They take it to the coroner,
they take it to the
which is
official
kind of
FBI doll
hilarious.
examiner. What are you talking about? Yeah. No, who cracks it open, well, like a coroner would do, and the plot thickens. So inside the doll, there's this mysterious phantasm like metal ball. So is this like next level tech? Is it an alien brain? Is it
Hmm.
supernatural, or is it like nothing at all? But he puts a mic up to it, and then there's a static noise. I guess everybody can hear it,
Yeah,
but it
I
messes
guess.
with Harker like worse than everyone else, and it triggers
Yeah.
like these horrible images that flash before her eyes. And I think she sees the doll maker
Yes.
and some other stuff. I think that's when she sees like snakes.
There's a really creepy line. I think the doll maker says, I know you're not afraid of the dark because you are the dark.
Yeah,
And I was
that was a
like,
good
that's a
line.
great line.
I think they put that in the trailer.
And then the doctor, he makes like a weird comment about how he could have sworn the voice was whispering
Yes,
his wife's
his
name.
ex-wife's name.
Oh, ex-wife's name. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever this ball is, it ain't a toy.
And there's nothing inside it. I think they confirmed there's nothing inside it because
Yeah.
they cut it or something.
Did you have any theories about the ball at this point? Any balls theories?
No,
Balls.
honestly, I don't even know. I mean, I guess just some psychic stuff, but I mean, I can't go any deeper on at that point. How about you? Are you trying to piece this together already?
No idea. I was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
Again, I could hardly keep up with the logic in this movie, so I think I was always one step back, honestly,
Yeah.
but we have a silver ball now,
Yeah, we have a silver ball. I've kind of given up on the mystery. I'm
right?
just hanging out for the vibes.
Yeah, I like that.
So the investigation takes Harker to the mental health facility wherein Carrie Ann has been locked up since her parents died a horrible death 20 years ago. And a hospital employee just, drops a HIPAA bombshell and
Yeah,
tells Harker it's like some orderly or something. He's like, Carrie Ann has been in a catatonic state for like 20 years, totally checked out until recently when this guy came and visited her. And they're like, what? Like, what? They just let anybody in here? And I
yeah,
think like that would have been a plot hole, except they kind of make a joke to deflect it. But anyway, Carrie Ann just snapped out of it after Longlegs came to visit, I guess.
yeah.
So Harker sits down to talk to her, and this is a great scene with Kiernan Shipka being very believable as this person.
Hmm.
It's not exactly a great heart to heart. Carrie Ann talks about having a vision of her father murdering the priest and then turning on her mother, but she wasn't there when it happened. So something supernatural has been
Yeah,
messing with her. She adds that now she would do anything for Longlegs, anything he asked her to do, including like murder and suicide. And she goes into great detail about those things. And it's
yeah.
really an excellent performance here from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Well done, Kiernan.
It's so creepy when she says something like she's eager to help the man from downstairs. And is it at this point where she even says, I would basically kill you, Harker?
Yep. Yeah.
Like real matter of factly. And it's so
Hmm.
weird. Like she
Or
really
herself. She would
sells.
gladly. Yeah.
Yeah, gladly. Like she really sells like the being under a spell kind of like way that she. I love.
Yeah.
I agree. This is one of the interesting scenes in the movie.
Next up, Agent Carter drops another revelation. It seems like he has done some digging around and he has figured out that Harker actually had an encounter with Longlegs in her childhood. So wait, you mean to tell me Harker is the little kid at the beginning of the movie? What? I did
Yes.
not see that. Oh, wait. We don't actually know that for sure yet. Sorry, that's later.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it turns out that little Lee was one of Longlegs' targets, but the memory has been suppressed. Kind of.
And the reason they know this was there was a police report. Her mom called it in, right? Is that because it was a
Yes.
trespasser? And that was
Yep.
the only way that they would have known that.
Somehow he pieced it to very,
Yeah.
very, this doesn't happen, especially in the
Picture,
70s. It would have been a
picture
handwritten file.
90s,
Yeah.
90s
Hmm.
technology trying to
Yeah.
chase down a clue like this.
Yeah. So suspension of disbelief.
There you go.
So Parker is now kind of determined to unravel the dark mysteries in her past. Pays a visit to her mother Ruth, who seems kind of like a religious fanatic, but
Yes.
like also not really. She's hard to pin down. She talks about how her daughter should pray a
Oh,
lot.
yeah, and she's like, I don't do that. It's I forget what the quote was. There's something
Too,
about she says
too
like it's
scary.
too
Too
scary.
scary.
Yeah.
So that led to some speculation of how, in how the like theories of the movie got made by
Mhm.
other people. Like maybe she saved herself by not praying.
Okay. Seems a little bit of a deep dive, but okay.
Well, we can hash that out later.
Sure.
The real discovery, meanwhile, we're enjoying Ruth's character. Like the real like puzzle piece comes when Harker goes through some of either Ruth's belongings or little Lee's belongings,
Mhm.
maybe. She finds a picture of a mysterious man, a man who looks all too familiar now. It's a snapshot taken by a young Lee back when Longlegs showed up at their house. So wait, you mean to tell me little Lee Harker was the kid at the beginning of the movie? What? I did not see that coming. I mean, yes, I did see it coming from the beginning, but
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. So Longlegs has been tied to Lee's life all along. That is a pretty dark
Hmm.
discovery to make about yourself, when you think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So she's got a lot to process. She's armed with some new information. She heads back to Agent Carter. Now the stakes are even higher because it isn't just about solving a case. Longlegs has been circling her life for years. And the
Yes.
important question is why? Why?
Why?
So, using just the snapshot, the FBI are able to track down and capture Longlegs. What? It just took one photo after 21 murders?
One
True,
Polaroid.
like truly amazing work, FBI.
This is the goofiest scene in the I was just
Huge
baffled.
applause. Yeah.
Just so how do they catch him? He's just standing at a bus stop with like a suitcase
So I
and
think this is a purposefully like anticlimactic part of the movie because
yeah,
of course we would expect him getting captured to be part of like the climactic scene. And at
right.
first I was disappointed, especially when we
Sure.
learn his real name is Dale Ferdinand Coble, which makes him a lot less scary in my opinion. Like he's
I
no
agree.
longer a cryptid, but he still is plenty weird. So
Yes.
Harker's in a room with a bunch of other agents. They're looking at an interrogation video, and in it, Longlegs addresses Harker and creepily sings her happy birthday. And I think the other agents are like, why? How?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Just like the audience.
Right.
And Harker goes all weird Bible on everybody, quotes some Revelation stuff. And then she's like, is he still in there? And she goes into the interrogation room to personally speak to Dale, Mr. Coble,
Dale.
and determine who his accomplices may be. I guess she just takes this unilateral decision to go interrogate him on her own, which is probably against protocol.
She's just a maverick. She just goes
Yeah,
rogue. And like I'm sure her boss is probably like, "What are you doing? Stop doing these things.
right.
You need
So
to inform me."
he goes on to her about how he serves the man downstairs and how she should ask her mother about anybody he may have been working with.
Ooh.
So basically, Longlegs is like, your mom, which is totally a 90s thing to say. So that tracks.
Yeah.
Longlegs also, again, wishes Harker happy birthday. He's really over the top with his birthday shit. And then smashes his
Seriously.
face on the table to death.
Oh,
Really disturbing scene
this
there.
was effective. I have never seen someone bash their own face in until
his nose is gone.
Yeah.
That really bothers me. Nose and the eyes stuff. And the teeth. I don't like to see teeth getting knocked out. And there's a lot of that. I mean, it's okay. I'll watch it, but it's like not my favorite,
No.
Harker now gets in trouble with Agent Carter because
About
I guess
time.
it's her fault that Dale Coble got all agitated and offed himself because now they will never know who the accomplice is.
Nope.
Why is it always the woman's fault? Man in there, handcuffed in there alone. He could have done whatever alone, but no, she goes in there and asks him a question. Now it's her fault. So typical. Carter also says, like, Carrie Ann cannot be the accomplice because she is said to have jumped off the roof of the very high quality mental health facility where security is clearly on point. Wait a sec, though. Carter, isn't the main reason that Carrie Ann couldn't have been the accomplice because she was actually living at the mental health facility all this time?
That's a good point. Yes.
I mean, she would have had to
She has an
check in and
alibi.
check out, and I don't think she had that privilege, honestly.
No, probably not.
Harker heads back to Mama's house again, takes along Agent Browning. Harker enters the house alone again, protocol people.
Yep.
Doesn't find anybody, of course. Then Ruth pops out from behind Agent Browning and blows her head off with a shotgun.
This one got me. There's a shot where you see it's like from the front of the car looking back, and you can just briefly see Ruth standing there for a few seconds. And then she slowly walks to the front of the car. And it's just like those little things. If she just popped out and shot her, it wouldn't be that scary. The fact that she stood there, though, for a few seconds and then just, oh my God. There's a lot of shocking deaths in this movie.
I'm just kind of mad that they didn't go inside together, which would have been the obvious thing to do. But whatever.
Come on, people. Strength in numbers.
Lee comes back. I'm calling her Lee now because her mom also has the same last name as her. So Lee and Ruth. Lee comes back outside, and then Ruth has this doll that I guess is supposed to be Lee's doll that looks a little bit like little Lee. And she shoots the doll in the head, and a puff of black smoke emerges from one of those phantasm balls. So then Lee faints, which is a perfectly reasonable response to all of this, but also probably means she was somehow connected to that doll.
Yes.
What were your thoughts at this point? Did you have everything figured out?
In terms of her connection to the ball? Yeah, I think so. Because there's a scene, I don't know, it must have been earlier where Lee goes into Ruth's kitchen to make tea. And she kind of looks at the basement door. And I think there's like bugs that come out of it or something. And she like briefly looks for the key for it. And then she just kind of gives up and she goes back. And I think her tea is done.
I think I suspected that he lived down there then because I think it looked a little bit like when she was having the vision and we looked in there at that angle with the door open.
Yeah. So some of that was starting to come together, but I still don't think I understood the silver balls completely. But
yeah,
I don't know.
And I was also thinking the man downstairs, he could be the man literally downstairs.
Yes.
But also the man downstairs is the devil. The devil's definitely involved with this.
In some way.
Now he's dead at this point.
Yeah.
And she has destroyed the doll that connects Lee to Satan. So Lee should be free now, right?
Right.
Okay, so that was my thought.
Okay. Makes sense.
Part 3, Birthday Girls.
Oh boy.
We hear Ruth's voice now, recounting the sinister tale that ties them both to Longlegs. Ruth confesses that when Longlegs first appeared, she had begged for mercy, pleading with him to spare both her and her daughter. We see an awful shot of Ruth tied up on the floor. That was probably the hardest part for me to watch in the movie, like despite all the gore and stuff.
Yeah.
But instead of becoming another victim, Ruth decides to become his ally in order to do what she thinks is protecting her daughter.
Right.
So she then began helping him in his twisted scheme to murder all those people for the devil somehow, for reasons.
Yeah.
you'd think if the devil just wanted to take people, the devil would just do it.
Do it
I know
himself.
then we wouldn't have this movie, but like also maybe the revelation thing explains why other people have to be involved.
Sure.
Maybe Longlegs is the Antichrist. I don't know. I'm just going off here.
No, that makes sense.
But Ruth explains that her role in the murders involved delivering these dolls that were handcrafted by Longlegs. I think we know that by now from little snippets that we've seen.
Yeah.
We didn't know about the delivery though. This is a bombshell. So each
Yes.
one was carefully modeled after the daughters of the targeted families. And they weren't just toys. So according to Ruth, these dolls were imbued with dark satanic magic, which is how the dolls managed to get into the minds of the fathers, pushing them to commit the horrific murders and then shuffle on off the mortal coil. Ruth would disguise herself as a nun, convincing the unsuspecting families that these dolls were harmless gifts from the church. Nice cover story.
For sure.
But that wasn't all. Ruth reveals that Longlegs had been living in the Harker household for years, which we'd also kind of figured out.
Yep.
Hiding right under their noses, literally, the mysterious man downstairs. So is he the man downstairs or is the devil? I'm like, it can only mean one or the other. Why?
Sure.
It can't mean both. Come on. So Ruth tries to justify all this, as one probably would, tells Harker that everything she did was to protect her daughter, from death and eternal damnation.
As is usually the case.
She was convinced that helping Longlegs was the only way to save Lee from a fate worse than death. The doll that she just destroyed outside had been the source of the psychic whispers in Lee's head all along. What? This entire time, she had been steered in her investigation and manipulated by Voldemort himself. I mean, Longlegs, whatever. So Lee pops awake and she's in her old bedroom, disoriented, but she's aware that everything is wrong. Her mom is not there, and then the phone rings. That's always bad.
I think she wakes up in the basement.
I thought she was in her childhood room.
Oh no, I think it was Longlegs' basement where he made the dolls.
Oh, creepy. Okay.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
Anyway, she answers the phone. I think you're right. I don't know what I was picturing. She answers the phone, and a sinister voice gives her a helpful reminder. You're missing Ruby's birthday. Oh no, had we forgotten this loose thread that needed to be tied up? No time to waste.
That seemingly meaningless scene?
Yeah.
Wait, it had some importance?
Harker sprints to the shed, jumps in her mom's car, and peels out toward Agent Carter's property, and we know shit is about to get real.
Yes.
By the time she screeches to a stop at the Carter residence, it is already too late. The time is past salvageable. Mama Ruth has arrived, and the whole Carter family, Agent Carter, his wife, whose name I forgot, and little Ruby, are already in the satanic trance dance.
Yes.
And there it is, the harbinger of death, the doll. It looks kind of like Ruby. Harker tries to snap Carter out of it, but it's too late. He's already taken over by this weird satanic rage that's just under the surface. Ruth is just as calm and cold as ever.
Just sitting on the couch.
How could she not be a sociopath?
Yeah.
Suggests that they cut the birthday cake. So Carter and his wife go into the kitchen before Lee can even process what is happening. We hear the sound of a knife plunging into flesh. The wife is now dead, without me ever having properly learned her name. I'm so sorry. Having been stabbed to death by her own husband, and it's all Ruth's fault. Longlegs is fucking dead. Why does she even have to do this? What the fuck, man?
Seriously.
I mean, I guess the deal is with the devil himself and not with the mortal character Dale Coble, whatever. Dale Ferdinand Coble. But I figured shooting the doll would be enough to set Harker free from that business. Was that not enough? Why do we still have to, go through this?
Right.
And my only thought was, it's a deal with the devil, she got to do it. But
sure.
I mean, there ain't going to be any more dolls. So what's the point? So, desperate, Lee pleads with her mother to stop. But Ruth is beyond reasoning. She's somehow, some reason, fully committed to the mission. It's all or nothing. So when Carter, who's now fully controlled as a puppet, advances on Ruby, Harker is left with no choice. So she has to take him down, and she does. But it ain't over yet.
Oh no.
Ruth is fucking furious at being thwarted. Stands up, knife in hand, ready to end both Harker and Ruby. So I thought it was all for your daughter. You did it all for your daughter, and now you're going to kill your daughter.
This knife that she has is crazy. It's one of those like wavy ones that you only see in movies. It looks like a
Yes.
film prop for some reason. And she's just
Yes.
like, she looks like a crazy witch or something. I loved it.
So now, Harker got to do what she got to do, and she shoots her own mother in the head.
Yep.
Then she goes to destroy the cursed doll, but her gun clicks empty. So I guess they leave that thing
Sequel.
there, and she takes Ruby and walks away, and leaving the house and the wreckage of her own traumatic life behind. The final scene gives us Longlegs sitting smugly in the interrogation room, laughing and saying, "Hail Satan!" while blowing a kiss to the audience like
I
this was
like
all
that.
just a game, and maybe it was.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
Full credits.
Any observation about how this ended? Do you think they did it right?
The whole ending seemed so rushed that
Whole movie.
the whole movie for sure, but like this ending, as soon as she leaves her mom's house, you're just like, what? Oh, okay,
I'm
here
like,
we are.
what happened? What did we just,
Yeah.
what?
And for some reason, while I was watching it, it just seemed so odd the way that the last like scene worked out. Like she walks in, her mom has a knife, no one else has a gun that we know of. Like, so Harker's the only one, she's in a position of power. Wouldn't you just grab Ruby and just run? Because your mom's a lost
Probably.
cause. Carter's probably a lost cause at this point. Wouldn't you just grab the kid and just book it?
I think that, like, Parker really had, like, friendship feelings for Carter, and she was going
Oh,
to
you think?
try. She was constantly doing the calculus about whether or
Interesting.
not he was salvageable, and maybe the wife. I don't know.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, because they did a lot of character building between those two early on. So maybe that was the whole idea that she kind of become closer to him in some way.
I actually did like the ending, even
Yeah.
though I think big parts of it don't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
That may be like the deficit in my religious education. Like maybe there's an obvious reason why the mom had to like keep murdering. I don't know.
Yeah. It wasn't apparent.
One thing that I delighted in when I saw this in the theater was all the horror references to all these other like great movies over the
Right.
decades. Like so here's the ones that I just like caught on the first watch, and then
Uh-huh.
I didn't really try again. But so of course, like the first most obvious one is Lee Harker. The last name comes from like, like Mina Harker from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe this is a stretch, but Carrie Ann is very similar to Heather O'Rourke's poltergeist character, Carol Ann.
Hmm.
And Heather
I can see
O'Rourke
that.
died when she was 12 years old. So that would be
Yeah.
like a nice tribute. And then there's also, of course, Carrie from Stephen King. So I
Sure.
take those two names and mash them together. So yeah, we talked about how the silver balls are taken straight from Phantasm.
Yep.
That was a nice love note.
Yeah.
So much Silence of the Lambs stuff,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
which I personally enjoyed. But
Sure.
um, I did not watch much of Twin Peaks. It was always like I was too young or not interested.
Yeah.
Like I went from being one to the other. So, but I am aware of some of the like cultural things about it, and
Sure.
I was aware there was a lot of references to that as well. And this is not a reference, but we did say we were going to talk about it. Do we think there could possibly be a prequel to this could be a prequel to the Black Coat's daughter? Like, could Longlegs possibly be Cat's father? If so, maybe Cat will still be out there in the future, and maybe that's how this gets a sequel.
I think it's a stretch, honestly. I just don't see it. I just don't see the a
I mean,
strong enough connection.
the devil talks to her. Devil gets her to kill people.
It's true. I like to think that there's something, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking there isn't. I'm gonna hold out hope that there is. It's almost like, looking for Bigfoot. Like I know he's not there, but I kind of want someone to find Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course, why wouldn't you?
yeah,
I
like I
mean,
know that it's very unlikely, but like someone just find Bigfoot. Like it would be so cool.
I think the answer to that question is we should not find Bigfoot because have you ever seen Terry and the Hendersons?
Oh, of course I have
Like the
when I
whole
was very
message to
young.
that is that if we meet Bigfoot, we're just gonna fuck him up.
Is
Like
that
he's
right?
better off without human beings. Yeah.
That was my favorite movie when I was probably 8, and I used to watch it all the time, and I barely remember anything from it.
What do you think the whole point of this movie was? Like, can you say it in a way like I just
Oh,
said the whole point of Harry and the Hendersons was blah blah blah.
I think the point of this movie is that evil runs a bit deeper than the surface because if you look at Longlegs, he's not a very threatening character, but what he is capable of is terrifying, I guess. So it's not the man, it's the
The evil.
yeah, it's the evil. Exactly. And he's a because again, I don't think he's scary. Do you find him scary? I mean, he's just unusual, I would say.
I found him more scary at the beginning
Right.
because that first scene that they show you, they don't finish it. So you like,
No.
did he abduct her? What happened? Who is that?
Right.
And then eventually you figure it out. But by the time he's caught, yeah, I think the scene where he goes in the store, it
Yeah,
just makes him look just weird. But not necessarily scary. Maybe scary if you're in the store all by yourself and he's there.
true. You know what, actually, I just was reminded you were talking about the how anticlimactic his scene where
Mm,
he gets caught. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the that whole point was like, yeah, that's fine, but he's not the threat here. Like you've captured a guy
exactly.
that is
Yeah.
supposed to be the big baddie, but then you're like, it's still so early in the movie, like this has to have some consequence.
I
So,
think
but yeah,
that's the
it's not
point. Like we were
you can
supposed
catch
to
the
feel a
man, but you
little
can't like
let down.
harness the evil.
Good call. I would say the point of this movie in like one sentence is sometimes single moms just got to do what they got to do.
I love it.
Would you like to rate this movie on the Scream scale?
Oh, sure. I'm gonna let you go first if you wouldn't mind.
Happy to go first. So I said some things about my feelings about this movie, like when I first saw it in whatever episode that was. I thought it was a beautifully made movie. It was creative. It was like pleasantly scary. For me, it's almost kind of a cozy scary,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. The Silence of the Lambs callback was definitely like a nostalgia hook. Then it went in this whole other direction, and I'm so glad about that. Like, I mean, I'm really glad that it didn't have any cannibalism in it or wearing of human skin suits because I think that's just really been done to death. I loved Micah Monroe in this, the whole thing this through, and I think Nicholas Cage like really gave it 110%. That guy's really got heart.
Yes.
And now he's shown us, not that we doubted him, that he can do all kinds of horror. I think he's done it all by now.
Yeah,
Uh, the real standout character for me though was Alicia Witt as Ruth. It was a complex character,
I agree.
and she did a good job of bringing those complexities to the surface.
Yeah.
I don't feel like all the loose ends were neatly tied up. I found, some plot holes and things. It certainly strained credulity at times,
Yes.
but almost in a playful way. So, it was such a fucking good time that I'm okay with that. I enjoyed the atmosphere and all the callbacks to all the wonderful horror. It was like a love letter to the whole genre. Like a sinister love letter scrawled in satanic runes, of course. So I'm giving this one a 4.5 on the Scream scale.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. I'm a little surprised, but maybe not.
In which direction?
I thought that was a little higher actually than I thought you were going to go,
Oh,
but interesting. Okay.
I really like this movie. I would probably watch it again, and that is an unusual thing for me to say.
That's true. Yeah, for you. Huh. Okay. So 4.5. So I I really wanted to like this movie more than I did. I'm
Oh.
this is my hot take, I gotta say. For like
Ah.
the last 2 weeks, I've been going over it in my head. So I mean, everything you said, the movie looks fantastic. Really good performances. Alicia Witt, I totally agree. Like I said, I didn't even know that was her when I first watched it. So just really good performances. The pace of this movie just drove me nuts.
It was wild.
I don't know the last time I thought to myself, I wish this movie were longer. Usually it's the opposite direction. Like this doesn't need to be 2.5 hours. But this movie, if they added an extra half hour and fleshed some of the stuff out,
Yeah.
I would have been so much more into it because there's so many decisions that aren't really um like they don't really give you a reason for. and there's so many of them that all of a sudden your whole thing is like, well, I don't know why this character is like this. I don't know what's happening there.
Mhm.
Why are they going to this place now? Like there was so much of that. And I get that, yeah, to keep it at like an hour and a half is really good for like theaters and just business in general, because more people are going to see it. But this movie just needs to be fleshed out a bit more. But
Heard a lot of people say that.
yeah, I don't know. A lot of really good ideas in it. And I think, again, if you were to add an extra half hour, the connections between all of those ideas would be so much more like cogent. I'd be able to understand it a bit more. But
Fair.
that's really the only thing I have against it. The pacing just threw me off. So with all of that being said, I give this film 3.5 screams out of 5. I went
I
a little
thought yours was
lower.
gonna be higher.
Oh, really?
Did. I'll try not to be disappointed.
Well, I'm trying to remember. I
It's
think I
just
may have
Matt.
given Blackcoat's Daughter 3.5 also, which means I think this
Interesting.
and yeah, but for very different reasons. I don't know. Like that movie
Oh
is just
yeah.
kind of silly,
So
but like
different.
fun silly. But
Yeah.
yeah, so interesting. So what does that take us to? 4.5 and 3.5. Go. 8?
4.
So yeah, 4. I didn't finish the math. Got to divide by 2.
I can't
That's
believe you do it in 2 steps. So
that's
weird.
that's still pretty solid though. That's an 8 out of 10. I mean, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
probably higher than the IMDb score. So yeah.
It is. It is currently, I believe. Like you said, Blackcoat's Daughter was like kind of silly and fun
Yes.
and weird. And this
Yeah.
one was also like silly and fun and weird, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
I don't either. This one just, I don't know, maybe not as flashy. I don't know. I feel like Blackcoat's Daughter was maybe a little flashier of a movie, whereas this
Mm.
one was very kind of like dull in a period piece kind of way. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
fair.
I would definitely recommend the movie though. I mean, especially, and I think the brief thing that I said about this movie when I first watched it was how they chose to drive the horror genre because this way more felt like a thriller. This had all the
Mm.
hallmarks of a thriller, which I love. Don't get me wrong. If
Yeah.
they just marketed this as a thriller, going into it, I'd have a different set of expectations that might have been met better than it being marketed as horror. But I guess you got to go with what sells, and I'm guessing thrillers are not a big hit at the box office.
I do think there was enough like fear driving it classified as a horror. Also, like it had Satan and supernatural elements, which I know
True.
can still be in a theater
Yeah.
in a thriller. It did have the
Right.
beats of a thriller, but the thing is, so many horror movies in the theater do. They don't really
Right.
have the beats of traditional horror. Veronica did.
Yes. That's true.
The movies where everybody dies, that's,
Yeah.
that's pure traditional horror.
I think the more movies I watch, that I'm starting to realize it's really hard to pin down an actual horror movie because
Yeah,
I
they
don't
don't
know.
make
There's
them
just
anymore.
so many. Yeah, there's so many different like subgenres and things that are like, and I kind of like that. I like when the movies aren't just fitting squarely into one genre. It's so cool when they can bring different elements in, and I think that's where you bring in like sci-fi and thriller, and you can have anything. You have comedy. All these things in a horror movie is very interesting. So I don't know. It's interesting to hear how people look at subgenres and how they if they actually consider them to be horror movies.
Do you think that Lee Harker's character had an arc?
I think she had a conclusion. I don't think she had an arc necessarily. I felt like 10 feet away, I was not connecting with her at all, which I'm guessing is supposed to be the point of her character.
Yeah.
She's like a blank slate, basically.
She
You
didn't
don't
even make eye
understand.
contact with other characters.
No, no, exactly. Which I've also read could be like neurodivergence. Obviously, they don't go into any of that in the movie, but so that's just
Sure.
someone thinking that that could be the case.
It was the 90s. Women couldn't have autism back then.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it didn't exist, obviously.
No, it's a
It
pretty
just
new thing, actually.
yeah, for sure. I don't think she had much of an arc. Do you?
I think her arc was she was living just above a layer of suppressed childhood trauma, and
Oh,
she aired that out. And now she can start to work on it and move forward.
oh, interesting. That makes sense. Very smart.
At least that's what I hope for her, because that would be a positive change.
Yeah.
horror doesn't always give you a positive change. Sometimes it's like an inverse arc.
The ending, was this supposed to lead to a sequel, I assume? Because she wasn't able to destroy the ball?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And then I was also thinking, if flash forward like 30 years, Cat's
Yeah.
out there.
Uh-huh.
Did Longlegs live long enough to make Cat? Yeah, he did. So, but one of them's A24, one of them's Neon, so they probably can't
Oh,
cross
no.
contaminate, cross inseminate. What? I don't know.
I don't know what
I
you're
don't know what I'm
saying,
saying.
but I get it.
Forget I said anything. You want to tell listeners
Yeah,
about our next episode?
sure. So, on tonight's episode of The Dating Game, the serial killer version, we were introduced to an enthusiastic bachelor with a love for 1970s rock and roll and a unique hobby, crafting life-size dolls. He's an effective communicator, often using only his hands, and just likes to have a ball. A silver ball, that is. His dream date? A leisurely stroll onto someone else's property, followed by an exclusive tour of his basement workshop. Next episode, we'll be introduced to Bachelor number 2, an artist from Texas who's a proud homeowner, as we dive into 2015's chilling flick, The Devil's Candy. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and drop us a rating on your favorite podcast platform. Until then, stay spooky.
See ya.